from the boat because Bob and Sheila are staying on board whilst we go off to get ourselves templed again. Well, I'm taking this shot as I walk down the stairs. I can't see what I'm actually looking at other than it's quite a large temple. Now I'm not going to put it up to my eye, Susie, because I don't want to fall down. So the first few shots on this film could be an absolute waste of time, but this is the temple at Esna.
Today our visit is very short because it's only this first hypostyle left of the temple. Now after visiting Edfu, you know what the temple is made of. Various hypostyle going in a telescopic move to the offering hall and then the sanctuary and what could be around the sanctuary. All this we'll miss today because it's been dismantled in Christian era and they have used it most to build a church. You see the remain of the apse here and the main nave. What strikes you here is this difference we have between the old town and the modern one. It is due mainly because of the higher altitude in Aswan.
Just some vestiges of colour, but a lot of soot.
Particularly on top of the
One
column,
assumes for the same reason that which was above ground was taken over by the Bedouin. But it means that that which was below ground is that much better preserved. The point of this shot is just to show the amount of colour which is still remaining after all these years. See the best example of colour here, going red, blue, yellow, blue, red, and that colour scheme is actually repeated in the stripes around all the pillars in this section. Well, we're now entering a lock. You can see the forecastle crew beavering away in a true seaman-like manner. Is there anything else of note? Not really. Not a lot else is happening other than this rope slipping around the bollard, or Samson post, depending on how you want to call it. All part of the process of coming alongside. Well, I don't even know if we're coming alongside. We'll probably just slip on through quietly. We're passing under an overhead bridge. I see one bridge, you've seen them all. Sydney Harbour it is not. Golden Gate, all is forgiven. And the view on the upper deck. You see us passing through. And what's of more interest to me is the dredger out there. Don't quite know what it's fishing for. Seems to be a bit of a jam up ahead. Quite a few boats ahead of us. I think we'll have to call those horns Cairo's Serenade. And we're being followed through the lock by this tastefully painted little number. What I think is happening is I think there's a huge basin here. You can see it by looking around. And maybe at some stage they have to raise the level somewhere. I don't quite know where though. What appears to be occurring is that the boats are now forming a queue, of which we are part. And we are next in line, by the look of it, or you can't tell, to go to the lock over there, where everything of note seems to be occurring. Well, something's going down there, isn't it? Well, we're looking at the traffic lights and they're at red, so we ain't going no place, we're just staying here waiting for our time. I thought we had a man overboard, but this guy is actually getting clean by swimming in the Nile. Don't go much in his chances. Well, he looks happy for somebody swallowing all those microbes. Well, we're now approaching the lock, and we're actually on the bridge. The captain's at the wheel, somewhere in there. There he is. very intent. And we're now going to just drop down a little level. I don't think they've started pumping this one yet. They'll do it soon. This entire complex is uncharacteristically modern for Egypt. Quite surprising, really. And the complex is being properly guarded this time. These are serious troops, not like some of the other ones we've seen before. And the lock is sufficiently large to take not just this boat, but another one in line astern. And the purpose of this shot is just to show the dry wall there, the bit of wet, show they're actually pumping the lock now we're in it.
Right, I've come back now, and it's about 5 minutes later. The lock is now emptying, and you can see where the watermark was, and you can now see where it's down to. It's gone down quite a bit. I'm going to walk up the front of the boat now. Don't know whether to call it a ship or a boat. See you later. Right, I'm now at the pointy bit of the boat, and you can see where the footbridge now is. It's moved up quite a bit, and we're now below the level where we saw the guard walking along. So we've dropped about 15 feet, which is quite something. And hopefully we're going to move forward now. Here's the front of the gate now, and as you can see, the walkway itself is now slightly above our heads, and you can see where the level has dropped down to. It still has a few more meters to go, and once it's there, hopefully the gates will open and we'll go forward. And here we go, the gates are now starting to open very slowly, and as you can see the water levels are now equal, which is a good job really, or else we'd go shooting through there at a race of knots. You can see that on the surrounding banks nobody stands and watches anymore, like perhaps they may have done in the beginning when this was originally opened, because everybody's used to it. You've got a large bridge that goes over the lock itself, which carries quite a volume of traffic. There's a car going across now, and it's a nice, easy way to get through 2 levels of water. And we are now moving slowly forward so that we can get past this and move on to Luxor, which will be rather lovely. I'll try and pan around. The orange light will blind us a little bit. You can see there's lots of people up here. People on this side standing on the quay. And you can see Jeffrey's waving his little arms because he's put his little sweater on. Was he real cold, little bunny? And here he comes, marching towards me. Ever the little soldier. And he's going to say something dumb in a minute, like, "Did you get it, love?" And we'll just see. Here he is, the little man himself.
Hardly a little man, but it's so nice to be here. And here we go to the lock. Do you want to turn around and have a look at the lock? And look at the lock, lassie.
We've already done that, laddie.
Well, we're moving through it. And there we are as the bridge recedes behind us. If you can just see that, the bridge was made in Romania. And all we've got now is the light of the pylons and the stars which we won't get. The captain has the headlight on so he can see where he's going. Got a 1 kilowatt headlight down there.
She was liquid almost when she came in through the door. I mean, there's no bone structure there.
It's down there somewhere. I can't see it. And they're calling the faithful to prayer again. It's a bit windy and I think I'm going to give up now. There's one look at the night view. Just a small inconvenience, there's another boat in front of us, like dead in front. Oh dear. At least they got life belts. All men in the boat, but now we've got a thumping great searchlight on us. Okay, must be pirates. Oh dear, they're coming this way. Are they armed? Who knows? Here's something else that's a bit disconcerting. The nose just hit the sand. Oh dear, little footprints in the... Dear oh Lord. Well, we could be here for a while. Oh boy. Actually, we're doing an exchange between the two boats. There are important papers on board this boat. There it is, the important paper. The Sydney Morning Herald, I think. That's it?
These are the traders.
Are they?
Yes.
Oh dear. Oh, here was me thinking this was something important. You want to buy a dirty handkerchief? Yes, come to us. Oh, pipe the quarter deck, we're coming alongside.
Isn't that fabulous?
Just wait for the bump. At times one wishes the Royal Navy had precision like this. It's a bit daunting when you consider that the captain's an Arab. What's even more daunting is this boat is actually the sister ship of this one. When we look across onto the other side, they're just looking like looking at your own boat. With all credit to them, they brought us alongside without so much as the slightest bump. Quite remarkable. Look at that, there go the fenders and we're just not even feeling it. Essential stores moving from side to side. This looks like dope smoking equipment to me. Yes, very sus. Now we know what business they're in, don't we? Goodness gracious me. Oh, and smuggling migrants. I just wish this had been in daylight. It's so funny seeing exactly the same design, both things alongside each other. Quite remarkable. And it's even more obvious when we look in the other direction. Is that Sue chatting up people from the other end? Looks remarkably like, yes it is. She can't hear what I'm saying, of course. Well, we're now on our way to the temples of Karnak, and Sinbad the Sailor is now driving. I've got a horrible feeling we're about to be taken over by a Sydney nurse. Yes, that's it. Too late. There's a blonde at the wheel. There's a blonde beside me as well. That's the back of Richard's head. Watch out, woman driver, P plates at the ready.
L plates.
L's in your case. We're on our way to the Valley of the Kings, where various tombs are set in the side of a rock, and you can get an impression for the rock faces. But as we come back, on our way to there, are a couple of rather huge lumps of rock known as the Colossi of Memnon. There is one of the Colossuses, and that's the other Colossuses, and that's them both. The temple regrettably has gone, as have their faces, this time not due to acts of wanton vandalism, but just the effects of erosion of the heat and cold. Because if we look around our band of stalwart tourists today, there's one stalwart tourist, you'll see it's definitely woolly pulley weather.
Yeah, it's a bit chilly today.
Is it?
Well, it is only 7:20 in the morning.
At night?
In the morning.
Oh, right. Okay. It's probably, we'll go and find out, lovely. It's probably worth just having a look round the whole valley because it is rather pretty. Which is an odd thing to say. I think Sue's going shopping again. This is the other aspect of the tour. Serious shopping going on here. Really serious. Just a bit of countryside from the Valley of the Queens. I'm not supposed to be taking videos apparently. Wonderful. Well, here we are in the depths of the wilderness here, without a sign of civilization, well, apart from the bus shelter. You can see carvings in the rocks, like up there. And now we reach the uninhabited area of the Temple of Queen Hitachi. Well, that's what I've been told. I know it's not really Queen Hitachi, but we'll find out later on who it is. Well, we've now got her name, Hatshepsut, or Hatshepsut is probably the as good a way of pronouncing it as well. Hatshepsut. She was in fact a queen who thought she was a king. She dressed as a man, and she did things like send her co-regent into battle some 17 times, trying to get him killed off, but it didn't work. And when she finally died, most of what you will see in here has been defaced. It's obviously good morning, because good heavens, I'm being run down by a herd of children. Dare I move? I don't know. And one thing this country is very good at producing is children. They do it extremely well. I suppose my first reaction at seeing this building is it looks incredibly modern. Not dissimilar from a Russian railway station. But of course you have to assume that modern architecture would have taken a lead from this building, which is possibly 2,500 years old. I wonder how many Russian railway stations will be standing in 2,500 years. Indeed, how many Russian presidents, apart from Lenin, will be remembered. And I assume that's herself, Mrs. Hatshepsut. You could call her the Margaret Thatcher of Egypt, I suppose. You know, all brass and whatever. Well, there's a better shot of her ladyship, looking quite red-faced. You can see the feminine features, and you can also see the attire of a pharaoh, including the characteristic beard with the curl in it to indicate the death of the pharaoh. So she was even buried with a pharaoh's beard, making herself masculine, and again wearing the twin crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. Norma, would you like to shout Thomas Cook again?
Thomas Cook!
Thank you!
In his cabin to eat the sailors. Still all the species of birds. You notice here the calamar and the lobster. Now Hatshepsut's silhouette has been all erased.
That's a lobster.
Under the orders of the raised arms of the Ka. Which means if Hatshepsut is gone, the vital forces are still there. The vital forces carry all the powers of life. That's the Ka who will reiterate the mummy or whatever statue having the identification of Hatshepsut, and there she will live again. You notice a few statues aligned on top. Originally there were one statue on each pillar. Now all the kids...
Well, above all this cacophony, I hope you can see the very faint outline of frankincense trees, and later on I will actually show the area where the frankincense trees used to grow, and that area is regrettably totally barren. Everybody's taking a picture of this guy. It's interesting to note that the colours have still faded, but it's one of the better preserved pieces of colour artistry in the temple that we've seen thus far. A rather good likeness of the goddess Hatshepsut, or in fact could be Hathor. I wasn't close enough to catch it, but it's nice to see that the necklace still has colour in it, and there's a certain feline quality to the face. The temple is quite magnificently backed by high rocks, crowned with a canopy of corrugated iron. which just adds to the mystery still more. Where did the ancient Egyptians get corrugated iron from? Restoration work is still going on in this area, and regrettably the ravages of time have taken their toll, but Norma informs me that one thing they never do is tamper with the colour. So this is exactly as it was found. Unfortunately on this tape we're unable to see some of the really beautiful colourings in one of the tombs that we've just been to, because they won't let you take video cameras in there at all. So all we're going to see on this film are the less spectacular ones. So refer to your side notes, postcards and other Egyptian memorabilia to see what it was like inside there. Genuine Egyptian postcards will do. And from this vantage point of the temple we can look back across the Valley of the Queens. You can see excavation work going on in the foreground. Sadly, there's not a lot left. You can see traces of what I suspect are mud brick structures, possibly left over from the workers. And this courtyard down here, that I'm pointing at now, was where the frankincense trees would have been growing. I was just casting my eye around and I spotted this ruin to the right, and a phrase just went across my mind. That phrase was magnificent desolation, and were it not for the people, this could be quietly magnificent and quite desolated. Debbie?
Debbie,
Hi.
Donna.
Donna, I was close.
Dawn, I go by Dawn
I'm
too.
sorry.
That's okay.
I was thinking of,
Started with the D.
I was thinking of Debbie does Detroit, Michigan, you see.
She did too.
I bet she did. About the only Egyptian poser who's not going to ask for back sheesh. Fido! Oi, dog! Well, that's great. There's a shot and a half. And apparently the whole of this area was planted with frankincense trees. About the only thing we see growing now are floodlights. Well, now we leave this area and return to the fleet of luxury coaches, engines throbbing in the distance. Is that my bus? I hope not. This is what I've been looking for. This is actually one of the roots of a frankincense tree that was growing in that courtyard, which they now have lovingly preserved and protected right in the middle of the concrete courtyard. So there we are, the remains of a genuine Egyptian pharaonic frankincense tree. What we now have is some classic Egyptology, the bus being driven by the kamikaze Arab. We don't have time to do this, but this is all made of mud brick, and in my opinion is extremely interesting, and I wish I knew a bit more about it, but never mind.
Put this back in the home, ladies and gentlemen, pumice stone. Pumice stone. And after the sandstone, we put in the oven for 1.5 hours, about 120 degrees. At the same time we take it out from the oven, we cover it by a piece of wax. The wax to make it more shiny and to take all the dust away from the alabaster. This is about the handmade one. It's not that kind of alabaster, we have some other kind of alabaster made by machine. I will show you the difference between the hand one and the machine one inside. And we have different kind of stone, like the limestone, the soapstone, the granite and basalt, and it's also made by hand. So that's all about. Go inside and fix your eye.
And this is an ancient Egyptian brace and bit for drilling a hole in lumps of alabaster. And we see the front of the shop, tastefully decorated in scenes depicting everything from Tutankhamun to the 747, which takes them on their pilgrimage to Mecca. Can't win them all.
It's a much lighter because it's more about one of the machine one are quite heavy. This is only the place you can find the real hand-made alabaster, but the machine one like that you will find them in different ways. These are gentlemen between the real ones and not the real ones. When it's clear, this looks like green alabaster there, but it's soft stone. This looks like this comes with butter. And that can be cooked to only 5 to 10 pounds, about 1 each pound in Romania. We have them also.
Yes, nice egg. All pretty.
Yes?
Similar.
Yes?
That one's got a dent in it, does it matter?
Well, it's a genuine Egyptian dented egg, isn't it?
It is.
Does it look nice though?
It is. It's got an eye in it.
Don't move it around so much.
Not this that time.
I don't know, love.
Yeah, Sam, this is where the real eggs come from.
Yes, they're laid by sphinxes, aren't they?
They are.
Sphinx eggs.
Sphinx eggs. I think I'll have that one.
Okay.
A clutch of eggs.
That's right. Okay. Is it goodbye or goodbye? B-U-Y? I don't know. Anyway, he's making money. And the old there she is, the champion money spender herself.
Not too much fish, but then I think that's...
What is it? What is it?
It's a scarab.
Yes, that's a dung beetle.
Dung beetle, yes, but he's rather lovely. He's all engraved underneath. Rather
nice.
pretty.
Contentment is a man who's just been into a shop and his wife has come out having bought almost nothing.
Absolutely.
Now come on, Maggie, is this true? Have you really nothing?
I know.
32 BC, Ammon was still in power. And the first move of Alexander in Egypt was to visit the temple of Ammon in Siwa Oasis, where he consulted the God's oracle and was chosen as the son of Ammon and the Pharaoh of Egypt. That's beside that Ammon, very important and famous king in the New Kingdom, was very keen on adding one more building to this temple. We can say that Karnak Temple is a record of 2 millennia of the ancient Egyptian history. If we start by the Middle Kingdom Temple until Greco-Roman era, it covers 2,000 years of history, and that explains why it's expanded so much. Actually, you see the mud brick wall? What?
Well, the two lovely ladies in the photograph, one of whom has her back to us, are actually coming to the temple from the point at which the temple would have met the Nile. This was actually a landing stage, and if they'd like to move off to the right, we'll follow them down the processional aisle. Where we've already seen ram-headed lions, which lead us now to the processional main entrance of the temple at Luxor. At first sight, this reminded me of one of my earlier girlfriends, but now we see that even the ram has a beard in the shape of a pharaoh. This is the plan of the temple. All I can say is if you want to look at it, you'll have to put the tape on pause, because I'm not going to sit here for half an hour while you study it.
On that side as well, you notice the ramps. What happened is that they built mud brick ramps, low ones, higher, all on parallel lines until they got to the highest one. When they finished building, they started removing the highest one, polishing, decorating from top, and then getting lower.
Ending up with a mud brick wall. Quite magnificent. The significance of this mud brick structure is that when they were creating the temple, they would build up, then they would put these mud brick ramps alongside and then come down and finish and polish as they went, and this indicates that the work on this pylon was never ever completed because the mud brick ramps are still in place. The columns in this temple are the absolute classic papyrus flower creation with no embellishment to the capital, and as the column comes down you'll notice that there is a distinct bulge and then trimmed off at the bottom exactly like a papyrus flower. and the whole temple is finished in columns of this kind. Sadly, when looking at that colonnade, we see in the corner an unfinished column, and I had never been aware of that before. So there is a finished column to the left and the unfinished column to the right. Underneath are a number of ram-headed lions, and these were failed statues and were recovered from the rubbish tip outside the temple.
34 columns. Only 12 of them in the central avenue are as high as 25 meters. They carry an open papyrus flower as a capital. But on the sides, you have lower columns of 16 meters height. And what happens here, we have 4 lines of columns at a certain height. Then the 2 sides are lower. Then you get the windows on the side. Now this hall was totally covered, like we saw the hypostyles earlier. If you look sometimes on the sides, you would see remaining blocks that used to cover the roof. So only those windows on the 2 sides would bring some light to the hall, plus the holes scattered here and there. First reigned 19 years.
This was 1300 BC, built by Seti I, and it still doesn't need a new coat of paint. It would appear that Peking duck was not on the menu, but rather Cairo duck. And have they laid eggs or not, I don't know. The thing which particularly worries me here is that there's a picture here of the Aurora aircraft, which is top secret, and there's a plan of Aurora dated in the reign of Seti I. And looking up here, we have a better idea of the windows to which Norma was referring earlier on. These would have been the only form of light entering into the temple once the roofing, we've seen over there, was in place. You wouldn't really want to be sitting under it if a piece of plaster fell down, would you? This is not even a main axis, this is just a lateral or horizontal column or colonnade. Again, the scale of it defies all imagination. One of our tour parties just said you can't get far enough away from it to take a picture of it. Yet another aspect almost impossible to explain. We just keep on coming on more and more difficult things. It's only now, after we've passed the first set of chambers, which you could consider a normal temple, that the scale starts to present itself to you, because we now look around and there's still more excavation going on down towards the Nile, and as we turn, the scale of this place is monstrous. I'll lose the picture in a second because I'll be going to the sun, but there are, or were, 4 pylons before this next gate, which I can't look up or else I'll get a lens full of sun. And then over to the other side, it just disappears into the dim horizon. I'm standing at the base of this absolutely, totally impressive. What can you say? I mean, look at it. Impressive magnificence, and I can't wide angle it enough to get the shot in. And then of course if I go over in the other direction, I've got yet another one. And look at the precision of that cap. Absolute. It looks like you could sharpen razor blades on those points. And here we see some restoration work actually going on right now. All I can say is this craftsman wielding a brush. As Sue has remarked about this obelisk erected by Hatshepsut, and we saw her temple earlier on, the one that looked like the Russian railway station, the text looks as if it could have been written yesterday. I mean, it really is that clear. I'd love to know what it actually says. I couldn't resist this shot because my friend here has a wonderful taste in clothing. However,
left to us this pair of statues, Ammon and Ammonet, bearing his own.
The statue of Ammonet and the statue of Ammon. The noise is because restoration really is going on at the moment. I can't help feeling our friend is dressed like that because he lost a bet to someone. Anyway, back to Egyptology. What we see here is another piece of totally intact ceiling, and the clanking we can hear is the restoration going on in that general area. It's very nice to see that this is being actively looked after. What I find particularly interesting is this wall is obviously made of the pink granite, and the pink granite has been beautifully cut, and we notice that they have taken the pink granite and have coloured over the pink granite. And so the party progresses. We've come through now a second chamber into another courtyard. The restoration work is now going on behind me instead of in front as we were a few moments ago, and we have still more construction in this area. We'll find out about that a little bit later on. Well, if we look, we can see that although we're in a very much older section, this is we've walked inside the structure we just saw. It has again been vandalised by the Christians. This is the Virgin Mary, and the lad himself has managed to get being put on that pillar. The sad thing is, of course, that they felt necessary to do so, but this might also explain for the similarities now between the ancient Egyptian faiths and Judeo-Christianity of today. As Norma is telling us at the moment, these pillars are different from the other ones in so much as they now resemble a number of stems of papyrus, and the capitals are papyrus buds. We are now a very long way from the main entrance, and the purpose of this shot is not to show how far away we are, but it's to show that active restoration is going on, and we see blocks are numbered and put in their place, ready for reassembly. We're now right into the meat of the temple, the very deepest parts, which can be seen still, I would surmise, almost a kilometre from the main gate. I will ask Norma, and now we can get an impression of the temple prior to restoration. It's very sad because it looks as if Norma's not going to take us into this section. The section we're looking at now was the very deepest part of the temple, where some new information tells us that at the beginning of each day, the high priest and high priestesses reenacted the birth of the sun, and this was done down here. I'm going to have a look. No, I think I'm wrong. That looks more like a gate. This is certainly yet another inner chamber, but it doesn't relate to the diagrams that I have seen. What I think, and I will walk forward again, is that that section is on and out through that gate, and I think it's under excavation right now. Right, well, the guard who wanted backsheesh for more photographs tells me that I'm now at the far end of the temple. There is no more. So I pan back, and unfortunately the old pan service and what we in Australia used to call the night cart is in place, and I now have to leave this very quiet part of the temple where nobody else is. Oh, the truck's gone now, and join the party in the Queen's Temple, which is off to the right, even though at the moment it's on our left, because we're now looking back at where we came in from. Being totally honest about this, it is absolutely wonderful to be in an Egyptian ruin, and the wind's going to get the microphone, and I'm totally alone. I've gone off to places where the tourists don't go. I think that's magic. Absolutely magic. Not a backsheesh man in sight. Well, doing my best now to protect the microphone from the roaring Egyptian wind. That's maybe where they got the idea from the lines from. We can see how lovely the reflection is in this ornamental lake. This was the female consort's temple, and again you can see active construction work going on. If we can go against the wind, you will now see the full temple in the background. Looking back, I'm going to fall off this wall in a second, at the pylons and the pillars and all the things that we have seen in more detail before. And looking across these ruins, we see that today in Egypt, the greatest prophet who remains is probably not Muhammad, it's probably our modern prophet, or the greatest prophet in Egypt, after a trip around the temple, is the cold drink stand.
Now this is where the intrepid travellers are stopping for a mid-morning break. And we're panning round, and good God, there's the two themselves, look at them. What a couple of wallies.
I thought I'd commune with the prophet. I mean, there's got to be a great prophet in Coca-Cola, don't you think, Bob? In fact, it's the only thing that's making money in this temple is Coca-Cola.
And as soon as you put the camera on Bob, he shuts up talking. It's quite incredible. He's now going to choke himself. And we'll try and find Sheila. I don't
know, I think she's over there.
This is just a little stopping off place in the temple. People walk in front of me. She's over there somewhere, but I don't know where. There she is. Doing some heavy bargaining, one would think. Well, this is very nice. I'll just pan around so that we can see. Lots of people coming towards me. We'll be getting ready soon to go to the temple at Luxor.
We now have proof positive that Martians did land in ancient Egypt. Unless I'm wrong, this is an alien being, or alternatively it could be our old mate, the dung beetle or scarab. But he's in a place of prominence in this here temple. Well, I think it's fairly conclusive now that they did have space technology, because here is the satellite launcher in place on the pad, ready for erection before takeoff. Well, if my name was Eric von Daniken, I could sell books and make money at it, couldn't I? This particular shot proves beyond all reasonable doubt that equal opportunities legislation had not been enacted in early Egypt, because this is the size of the female vote and that is the size of the male vote, and I think male superiority has been established beyond all reasonable doubt for all time. As we leave the temple, I'm just coming back to this mud wall which we saw earlier on, and the reaction that I've had is, here we are, mud brick designed to be removed, so it was at best a temporary structure, and look at the precision of that wall after 4,000 years. You get an English bricklayer to put a proper brick wall up like that. Goodness me. Well, having left the temple of Karnak, we're now at the temple of Luxor, and we'll find out more about it. Interesting to see that this time it's not the Christians who've had a go, but the Muslims who've decided to overshadow antiquity. There'll be much better explanation later on, but from this vantage point, this temple at Luxor was linked to the temple at Karnak by a magnificent avenue of the ram-headed sphinxes, which we can see going off there in the distance. That's a distance of over 3 kilometers. The remains of the avenue stops abruptly, and we can see again the hand of modern religions taking a firm grip and making sure that nothing significant has remained of the ancient culture of the ancient Egyptians. It's 3 minutes to 12, and this is competing mosques calling people to prayer. It's at times like this that the value of sound and video at the same time gives you an impression, so it's the sun affecting the camera there, the impression of what we're hearing and seeing. All you can't do is smell the garlic. At times like this, one has to say, "Come back, Mormon Tabernacle Choir, all is forgiven."
But here on this side, there is something.
And there in close-up is one of the offending Arab ghetto blasters perched firmly on the side of the minaret. I hope God isn't a music lover. This is all too much. Sadly, we're looking at another example of eco-vandalism. This particular pylon is intact and where it belongs, but the sister pylon, which would have been over there, has been removed by the French, and the baboons, which are on the bottom of this one, are on show in the Louvre, whilst the pylon is in the centre of Paris. So the French haven't even had the decency to keep them together. This is the head of Ramesses the Great. As we may already know, that he reigned for some 92 years. Seems a very long time. He is wearing the beard. We don't quite know whether it was the full beard or the funerary beard. The slot in the top is where the gold encrusted cobra would have been placed, but regrettably that has been removed. But there's a wonderful peace and serenity, power and wisdom about that face. And we can now witness the total defacing of this building. There's one of those wonderful papyrus bunch pillars, and sitting on top of it, a tastefully decorated modern mosque. Looking at the old temple pillars, I don't quite know what that, I think it's limestone they were made of. You can see the papyrus bud design. When you turn around and see now the ones which were made of granite, you can see the clarity of design still remaining after several millennia. At the back of this colossus of, where it was actually, I thought it was the Colossus of Ra. But anyway, we see the writing as done by the god Thoth, the immortal scribe, and that's some pretty dainty hieroglyphic engraving. Particularly to go on the back of something. I love the fine detail of that cartouche. Could have been done yesterday, couldn't it? All those cartouches. Yes. These statues are very interesting. So interesting that everybody wants their picture taken in front. The thing which interests me is not the statues themselves, but the fact that the beheaded statue has actually got, and it's the consort, her arm on the shoulder of the pharaoh. It's a very familiar and friendly gesture, which I think is rather nice. As it happens, I've just been children again. Hello kids. Hello. Looking back from the main entrance, you can see how alone we are in this part of the world, and how nice and quiet and restful it is. This would all have been open to the sky, but the next area which we're about to enter would have been enclosed, and we can see vestiges of the ceiling now remaining as we go towards the focus of this temple. I'm extremely suspicious of this as ancient Egyptian because it has Corinthian, the highly decorated Corinthian capitals to those pillars, and a very Roman looking arch. So let's see if we can find out some more about it. Well, yes, I was right. This is Roman. And what the Romans did when they took the area over, they plastered over, good heavens, I mean children again, they plastered over the Egyptian inscriptions and put their own plaster frescoes. You can see just how good Egypt is at producing children, and how good children are at producing noise. Well, looking over the tourism vandalism here, we've got a French woman with a portable amplifier. There's the roof in place. Here is the party. There's the offending French woman with her bloody amplifier. Unfortunately the noise is too great and the crowd's too plentiful to really see what's going on here, other than to say, there it is, have a look at it. These temples may belong to the world, but I wish they wouldn't all talk about it at the same time in different languages. Extremely confusing. Unfortunately, my commentary is always completely off the cuff, so I apologise for my exasperation earlier on, but I find it totally unacceptable that people then bring amplified speech into a place like this. It's lacking consideration for others. There again, that's something the French are particularly adept at, or at which the French are particularly adept. one little bit of ancient Roman eroticism which seems to have escaped the hands of the defacer. Oh well, something to brag about, I suppose. Well, this is it, the last piece of temple. This is the very back of the temple at Luxor, the one which joins the Karnak, and if it wasn't for all the throngs, I could actually go all the way down here and end up at the temple of Karnak, having passed through various gates and avenues of whatever. Instead, we now have to pass all sorts of other obstacles. As we leave, I have to just remark, because I don't know the actual answers, but just to note the restoration work which is going on. We can see that the blocks are numbered, but they look altogether too new to be straight excavation. I don't know. It's almost an advert for cowboy driveways, isn't it? A team of clean and intelligent workmen are available to serve you at all times. The answer to that earlier question now lies on this site. What we see before us is an arrangement of statues and pillars which have been removed from the site, have been positioned, mapped and numbered, and those blocks which we saw being put in place will be the foundations, and then these remains will then be reassembled and placed on the blocks, but the blocks will then be out of sight. So we've got a solid foundation for the reconstruction of these parts which now remain in this area. And again, you can see numbered blocks and bits of pillar in this other site, blocks with hieroglyphics on them. This has all been properly catalogued, and as I said, will be placed on those new concrete foundations. But the concrete foundations will not be visible. Well, unfortunately, Abdul the Arab is spoiling this shot. But what you can see is that we don't have the ram-headed Sphinx. We now have the Ramesses-headed Sphinx, and that's the way the column looks. I'm out of breath because I've been running for this one. Running up to the temple, and I think they want me. Well, here we are in the Sheraton Resort at Luxor, drinking our Ribenas, aren't we, Bob? What are we doing? What are we doing?
Ribena and nothing. Doing absolutely nothing.
What's on the agenda for the rest of the day?
There's a swimming pool over there.
Yes.
It's absolutely perfect. Overlooking the Nile, where I should go do my impersonation of a beach whale.
Okay.
Flainer a mate every time. And my DOS whalettes.
What was that?
2 whalettes.
Oh right, DOS whalettes, as in 2. I don't know what you're laughing about.
I'm going to work my way through these chocolate cocktails. They look quite nice.
Yes.
Sue hasn't realised what it's like to hang around with a man of immense charm.
Well, she's been with me a long time. Okay. And from our hotel room in Luxor, we can see a beautiful view of the mountains, the Nile outside our very bedroom window, and you've probably heard the various river boats having a horn dueling match. There's a boat full of happy tourists. I think it's happy tourists, I can't quite see from here. Yes. Hello Sheila, where are you then, darling? Where's here? There's Sheila.
Here I am.
She's next door.
Looking at the swimming pool.
Ah, yes, we've forgotten the swimming pool, haven't we? Across the tennis court, no, well, it's not really, it's more of a, what do you call it, patio, wouldn't you?
Where's my cuz?
Your cuz is unpacking the cases.
Is she?
Yeah.
Cuz?
I don't know. It's a lovely view though, isn't it?
Beautiful, isn't it?
And the challenge for the afternoon is, do we go for a sail in Pugwash's boat, or do we go for a swim in Mr. Sheraton's pool. See, the pool area isn't exactly busy at the moment. I think Dorma's Cork will beat the Germans for the first time ever. And the room is quietly efficient and comfortable. We have a king-size bed and TV and all the other amenities down the end. As hotel rooms go, it's perfectly average, but it'll do us. And we finish our second to last day in Cairo by watching a cruiser going down the Nile into an Egyptian sunset. There are other cruisers moored alongside, and the twinkling of lights in the background. Well, Pugwash and the stalwart crew are now shut up! Applying the Nile River on the Black Pig, which turns out to be called the King Ali. Yes, for the Black Pig, ring pig, King Ali. It's cunningly placed inside so that you can see who you are from the outside. And we're off for a day on the river. What fun!
And Sheila once more has got me moving around to fit her world.
Oh dear. There's nothing like having the wind in the sails,
And the wind in your right ear.
the wind in your right ear, a star and a wonderful boat to sail by. This is a shocking way to live, you know, isn't it?
Oh, this is agony.
I can't think of a worse way of spending a day, can you?
Oh, we can see our hotel.
Can we?
There's a hotel
Ah, yes.
somewhere on the second floor,
Over Sheila's head.
as most things are.
And on the horizon we see a couple of boatloads of tourists feluckering about. Or are they pirates?
Oh dear.
Oh, shocking, Bob, isn't it? It's really terrible.
Sail
And astern of Susan, we can see all the boats rafted up, about 9 abreast.
Ah, they were
We're not
there
going to take one
again.
of Jimmy, our intrepid captain.
Hello, Jimmy. That's what I like, an intelligent skipper. We may never make it home at this rate.
Oh. Shall I lie? Shall I sit or shall I lie?
I don't know if they could take it from the air, Bob.
I'd rather have the truth, please.
I have to say, that is a
No, it wouldn't.
magnificent sight.
I'll get you just.
Absolutely wonderful. What a setting.
Ah, I'll have to wait for that.
And in ancient Egyptian tradition we see the all-seeing eye of Horus on the prow of the felucca. It's just passing us. Very peaceful, very quiet. Just imagine Phil Turnbull sailing one of these on the Solent. And some of the onshore natives coming over for a drink. Natives, relatives. How peaceful. And off on the port bow we see the Nile Brickworks Proprietary Limited, and this is where they make the mud bricks for the villages. And we can see off to our right a little bit of village activity. There we are, I'll pick it round. I had to turn around for that one.
So one day, Jimmy, you'll have maybe 4 or 5 of these boats. Be a rich man.
This is the life.
Today?
One
Nothing
day.
to do,
For a
just
trip?
let the world
No.
go by.
Oh, this sometime.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello, this is my cousin Sheila,
This is my cousin Susan.
and this is the last night we've got here in Egypt. St. John's and tonic.
Yeah, 2 of.
4:30 in the morning.
It's not. It's 6
We
o'clock
don't
in the
want to
evening.
go home
We
because
don't
it's
want to go
nice
home.
and warm.
Yes, we like it here very much.
Yeah, we've been on clip-clop rides, feluccas.
Yes.
We've been feluccing around all day.
We had high tea at the Winter Garden
Palace.
Palace.
Winter Palace.
Winter Palace.
We had lots of photos taken by Sue.
Yes.
Well, some of them didn't come out, did they?
You don't know that.
Okay,
I hope it does. I hope it
Lovely
does.
holiday.
Very
terrific. Well, maybe you'd like to just take me and Bob, like I've taken you two, for the final words.
Okay.
Okay, well that's the end of the holiday, isn't it, Bob?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And the end of the money.
And the end of the gin and the whiskey. We've thoroughly enjoyed it. And what more can we say?
Nothing, nothing. Two lovely girls. I was offered 10,000 camels tonight.
10,000?
Yeah.
I was only offered 3 camels for mine.
10,000.
Oh, there you go.
But I told him I didn't have any money.
I'll take her away for 3 camels. No, thank you ladies for your company. It's been wonderful.
It's me.
No, don't do that!
No, don't do that, Sue.
Okay.
You naughty girl,
The focal length just isn't that good. Okay, this is the end of the holiday and the end of the film. Bye now.
Cheerio.
Do you want me to turn it off?
Bye. Well, you might just as well. It's all come out on the camera, on the film, or whatever.
Bye.
And so we leave Egypt with a panorama across the Nile at sunrise. It's just 6 a.m. near enough on our last day in Egypt. There's not a lot of light, but if you look extremely carefully, you can see the sun just starting to shine on the mountains that protect the Valley of the Kings. Goodbye, Egypt.